All right, I've got a confession. Don't be like me. Last year, I lost a home and income property I'd owned for 20 years. Why? Because I did a series of dumb things that would make even a first-year economics student say, mate, really? Basically, I climbed to the top of Mount Stupid and planted a flag that said, I've got this. And for the last decade, I've been happily camping on the plateau of sustainability, thinking I was Sir Edmund Hillary of property management. So if you're out there managing your own rentals, this next guest is the man you need to hear from. One of the rising stars at Barfoot and Thompson, Joseph Hickton, a bloke who actually knows what the hell he's doing.
Financial freedom faster. Financial freedom faster.
Before we get into it, if you're serious about property, start with the Mortgage HQ snapshot. It's ripped the lid off the game for thousands of Kiwi investors. No fluff, just a sharp look at your real options. Descriptions below. Take the shortcut. Joseph, let's be honest, property management isn't that fun. One of the reasons why I didn't have a property manager, and it cost me, was because of the cost. I saw it as a cost that I didn't want to wear, and yet ultimately I lost that property. How much is it 7.5% still on how much you charge?
Yes, at Barfoot and Thompson it is 7.5% plus GST plus a letting fee, but property management fees can range from 6% and I've seen up to 12%. For me, essentially, I think in New Zealand, when it comes to property management, the cost of it, we are, I think as a nation and as a country, where we have this DIY attitude. Yeah. And in countries like America and Australia, property management is regulated. Which means that you have to be licensed to be able to manage rental properties, because you're not just managing a home, you're also managing people and you're managing someone's most valuable asset. And I think what I'm seeing in the broad scheme of things, in light of what you said about losing a property, the cost of property management and paying a property manager, $50 to $100 a week, will actually save you money in the long run.
Okay, so I'm going to analyze that a bit further, because at the moment that sounds like fluff. I mean, how does it save money?
It saves money because if you don't have a property manager, the cost implications can be greater than how much it would have been to get a property manager. For example, a rent increase can be done every year to match market rent. A lot of people that I know that manage their own properties do not do these rent increases, which means that they're losing out on money. Yeah. A property manager also conducts lease renewals every year, looking over the lease 90 days before the tenant lapses, and they'll do their best to re-sign the lease renewal, securing another 52 weeks of rental income for the landlord. So these are some reasons why having a property manager actually saves you money in the long run than not. The most important thing, though, is time.
Yeah, okay. Let's stay on the cost at the moment. So essentially $5,000 a year from someone who was a tight ass like I was. I saw that as a cost, $5,000 in my pocket. And if I'm giving you $5,000 over 10 years and I had that property for 20 years, that's what, $100,000 that I'm giving you. I got a number of capital gains on the property over 20 years, but I certainly didn't want to give $100,000 to someone like you.
No, and when you look at it that way, it does sound daunting and it does sound like a waste of money. But if we actually break it down and look into it, I don't know how you lost your investment property, but if you lost it, that means that unfortunately you lost the capital of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, like I made a capital gain on the property, but no, in the last 12 months, I haven't had the capital gain, haven't had the income, obviously.
Yeah, so I think having a property manager, a good property manager, actually look after the property will, in the long run, definitely save you money. You won't see it straight away, but you may see it in the long run. It's like getting insurance, essentially, for your property, but you're not insuring the property, you're insuring the tenant and the income of the property. That is what a property manager does. It doesn't mean that you'll see the return of having a property manager straight away, but over the long run, I truly believe that you will see the return and gain in that. For example, I met a lovely landlord and he had his property rented out for $500 and he had left it there for 3 years. I came along, said, "Hello, sir, I'll get your property $620. He said, "Really?" I said, "I kid you not." Signed it up, done it, put a tenant in, and it's happy days. That's an extra $120 he's getting into his pocket every year, minus property manager fees at roughly equals to $60 a week. But that is the point is that now he's got someone in his property and he's got a property manager looking after it. So he saves his time and now he's saved money, and that investment is going to be well kept. Before, it wasn't looking very pretty. We've come in there, cleaned the whole place up, the tenants are happy, my client's happy, and things are going well. And when he goes to sell, guess what? He's going to make more money because the tenants we've put in look after the property.
Okay, I'm going to tell the reason why I lost this property. The reason I lost this property is I picked the wrong tenant.
Yeah.
In a sense that I've been picking tenants really well all my life. I had a lot going on with COVID and I had to live overseas. Picked someone who I thought was down on their luck, and they turned out after about 6 months to be doing meth, right? And I didn't know that for a long time. How in this situation, because I tried to wean them out, trying to be the nice guy,
Yeah.
right? Trying to be reasonable with someone who wasn't reasonable. And that's the reality. That's a key reason why I was in the situation I was in. This must happen to you guys pretty regularly.
I'll be honest, I fortunately, in 2.5 years of managing properties all over Auckland, haven't had any issues with meth personally. When I talk to clients wanting to put their home on the rental market, we always strongly advise a meth test is taken. But in fact, in my opinion, it really relies on your insurance policy. For example, if there's two standards in New Zealand, we have the 1.5 reading, which is the New Zealand standard, and we have the 15 rating, which is the Sir Peter Gluckman standard. And your insurance provider you choose will determine
Yes, you're right.
what they pay out on. So I personally haven't had to deal, fortunately, with meth infested
Okay, but I made the mistake of this person. Okay, it's the meth issue actually wasn't an issue in the end because we got the place cleaned up. The issue was I had someone in there who wasn't paying rent, who I chose the wrong person. Now, as great as you are, and you've had, you've built your portfolio up real fast, you can't have got it right 100% of the time.
No.
So how do you deal with that? Because you look really nice and you look lovely, and I probably want a ball breaker.
So with us, if there's an issue that I face with the property, whatever the circumstances, whether it's minor or large, there's a big support team around us at Barfoot and Thompson. We're very fortunate. We have in-house legal counsel, so if anything does get very sticky, like your situation, we would usually go to our lawyer.
But it's a 14-day notice period that you would first of all give my meth head,
Yes.
right? And if they clean themselves up after 12 days, then it goes back to zero.
That is correct.
Right.
With rent to rent.
Which, right, this went for 2.5 years with me. Okay, so yes, I should have kicked them out after the fixed tenancy. Another reason why I was on the top of Mount Stupid. But going to the tenancy tribunal, I've been there a couple of times as a landlord, complete waste of time.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. It's based on that you're working with two people who want to get a resolution, and if you're dealing with one tenant who doesn't, then it's toothless. Don't you agree?
It is toothless, and fortunately enough, I haven't had to go to tribunal because every issue we've had to face, we'd mediate in between, and that is something that having a property manager would do. They work, to the nth degree to make sure that your property is well looked after, that the best tenants are put in the property, and that the ball ticks along really well. And yes, you mentioned tribunal. Because there is talk in the town that tribunal is tenant favoured. I don't know if that is
It
true.
is. I've been there twice.
Okay, okay. Maybe there would have been landlord favoured if potentially you had a property manager. Because at the end of the day, I believe anyone can manage properties, the same way that anybody can use ChatGPT and call themselves a lawyer. You can do something, but if you want to do something really well and really, really good, I believe that as an investor, if you're doing it yourself, that when you look at buying investment properties, add in the property management expense in there. For a $700 property, it's roughly $2,500 per year, and everything is tax deductible,
Of course it is. Yeah.
which is very...
I think what you're saying, and the reason why you've had no issues, and the reason why you're a star at Barfoot and Thompson is the amount of effort that you go in vetting people.
Yes, there's a very vigorous vetting process.
So tell me about the vetting process on how how Barfoots choose their tenants, because if you've had no issues in 2.5 years, you're obviously doing something completely right.
Okay, this is what would happen. I'll break it down to you. So we put a property on the market, we get people through, let's say 10 people come to view the property and 5 people put in their applications. I'll process those 5 applications. We'll run credit checks on them. We'll do employment references. You know, I say to people as a joke, you know, I know their auntie and their uncle and their dog and their cat. Like that's, we really get to see into people's lives and how they are going to be as tenants. And then I'll call my client and say, hi, Mr. or Mrs. Landlord. I've got 5 applications. If it was my property, I would recommend this, but at the end of the day, you have the decision. Here are the 5 applications you have. And then the landlord makes a decision on who they go with.
How often does a landlord not go with your recommendation?
It's happened probably 3 or 4 times. And in those 3 or 4 times, those are the times where I've had a couple of hiccups.
Are you serious?
I'm being serious. Yeah, I'm actually dealing with a minor one at the moment.
Okay, we don't need to talk about that one. But what about the ones in the past historical that, you know, why would, can you give us an example of something in the past where?
Definitely. There was a tenant, a landlord, sorry, he was managing the property on his own, and it got really bad with him and the tenant. They were not only personality clashing, but there was some really, it wasn't a pretty situation. I got involved as a mediator between the landlord and the tenant, fixed everything up, and now the landlord is super stoked and the tenant is as well. It's actually saved them money because the tenant was going to leave. Now the tenant isn't leaving. She's living in a better home and she's happier.
So finally, I always felt as a landlord, I didn't want someone living there for more than 18 months. Because if you live there for over 18 months, suddenly the tenant thinks they own the bloody place. I mean, I'm serious. And I've rented out property since 1999. And I always felt that way. Do you guys have the same attitude? Or do you think, because tenants can be self-entitled, they do feel like,
Yes.
Yeah, right. So is it better for a landlord to have a high turnover where you're changing the, you know, where do you come from in that sense?
I would have to, I don't fully agree with that statement because I think 18 months, I understand where you're coming from, but for us and how I would operate and how we'd operate is the tenant would be in for 12 months. We'd sign a fixed contract at 12 months. 90 days before they end, we'd do a rent review on their current rental property. So let's say it's rented out at 900, maybe the market's gone up and we can charge 925, which is what we would get if the tenant moved. So then we'd sign a lease renewal with them and get them on for another year. So we've got 24 months with a great tenant who's paying a good rent for the landlord. They're happy, the landlord's happy. That's 24 months of net income, you know. You can't beat that. 4 weeks off the market for that property is, you know, if my maths is correct, about $2,700. That is no longer in the landlord's pocket per annum, which is what a property manager costs. So when you really break it down and look into all these things, I think give it to a property manager. Let the professionals deal with what they deal with on a day-to-day basis. Leave it with them. Let them roll with what they are really good at. Let them have your property, look after it, give you great tenants. Yes, the market's challenging at the moment, but I'm personally very optimistic for the future.
Okay, three reasons why you should get a property manager before we go.
Save you time, save you stress, and then controversially, save you money in the long run.
Joseph Hickton, thank you very much for coming in this afternoon, and I appreciate everything you do. Like I urge people to go and have a look at Joseph's LinkedIn profile. Very impressed from someone who's worked in media all my life to see this guy cold calling people. At cold calling's a hard thing to do, but if you're cold called by Joseph, I definitely would recommend you take his call.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Awesome, man.
Beautiful.